They say loneliness is sleeping in an empty bed. But have you ever slept next to someone who doesn't even reach for you? That is a deeper kind of empty. My name is Rachel Hayes. I'm 34 years old. From the outside, my life looked perfect. Designer kitchen, granite countertops, 2 sweet kids, and a husband who wore suits like he was born in them. We lived in a modern townhouse on the north side of Chicago, a neighborhood where everyone's lawns are trimmed and smiles are plastered on like wallpaper. And behind those walls, secrets no one dares to speak out loud. Mine was this. I was married, but emotionally single. I met Daniel at a corporate fundraiser in downtown Chicago. He was 10 years older, a sharp-tongued Ivy League attorney with a Rolex and a smile that felt like approval. When he chose me, I felt special, like I'd been seen, really seen for the first time. He was so together. I was still recovering from a messy breakup. He swept in, decisive and charming. Our first date was at RPM Steak. He ordered for both of us. I thought it was romantic. Now I realize I mistook control for care. Within a year, we were married. The first year was beautiful on the surface. Vacations to Miami. Christmas photos that looked like Hallmark ads. But intimacy? It was scheduled. Every kiss was like a contract. Every touch an obligation. I used to wait for him in lingerie. He'd walk in from work, glance at me and say, "You know I had a long day, Rachel." And I'd smile like I understood. But inside, I'd break a little more. When I had our first son, Ethan, I thought maybe it would bring us closer. Instead, Daniel got busier. At first with work, then with golf, then with everything but me. We stopped going out, stopped talking about dreams, stopped laughing in the kitchen. I became a mother, a housekeeper, a calendar manager, but not a woman, not to him. One night, I stood by the bed wearing nothing but his old shirt. I walked up to him, touched his shoulder, whispered, "Do you miss me?" He didn't even look up from his phone, just said, "Can we not do this tonight?" I went to the bathroom, locked the door, and cried while I stared at my reflection. I hadn't been kissed in 6 months. I hadn't been touched in ways that mattered in over a year. I started therapy secretly, told Daniel it was for postpartum stress. He didn't ask what we talked about. He never asked. My therapist, Lauren, asked me, "When was the last time someone looked at you like you were alive?" And I broke, because the truth was, I didn't remember. In that same waiting room, I met someone, a stranger named Marcus. Divorced, kind, warm eyes. He wasn't flirtatious. He was present. He remembered what book I was reading. He asked how I was doing and waited for the real answer. We started bumping into each other more often. Coffee after therapy. Walks by the lake. Nothing scandalous. But God, he listened. He made me laugh again. He once said, "You walk like you're afraid of taking up space." And I almost cried right there, because it was true. I had shrunk myself for years, so Daniel wouldn't feel inconvenienced. One day, Marcus brushed my hand lightly while reaching for my coffee, and my whole body woke up, not with lust, with remembrance. That night, I came home and asked Daniel, "Do you love me, or just love the fact that I'm here?" He looked at me like I'd spoken a different language. "Why are you being so dramatic?" he asked. "You have everything. A nice house. I'm faithful. What more do you want?" I replied with a shaking voice, "I want a man who doesn't treat me like I'm just part of the furniture." He shrugged, and that was my answer. I packed 2 suitcases the next morning, left a note that said, "I refuse to raise my sons in a house where women go unseen." I moved to a small apartment in Lakeview. No marble countertops, no wine fridge, but I had something I hadn't felt in years. Air. I could breathe, dance in the kitchen with my boys, wear what I wanted, laugh with my mouth open. People called me selfish. Daniel's mother said I was ungrateful. But no one asked me what it felt like to go to bed every night unwanted. Marcus and I kept in touch for a while. We didn't become lovers. He was the mirror I needed, not the destination. I chose me. If you're out there, lying beside someone who hasn't really seen you in years, let me say this. You are not wrong for wanting more. You are not selfish for needing love. And you are not broken for finally choosing yourself. Because the saddest marriage isn't the one that ends. It's the one where two people stay out of convenience, and one slowly fades out of existence. I was married, but now I am whole. Everyone talks about the courage it takes to leave a bad marriage. No one talks about what happens after. The loneliness, the guilt, the nights when freedom feels like a punishment. I thought the hard part was walking away from Daniel, but the real battle began the moment I closed the door behind me. Because when you leave a man who never loved you right, you don't just leave the house. You leave behind the version of yourself that begged to be noticed. The first night in my apartment was silent. No footsteps, no sighs, no cold shoulder, just me and two boys sleeping in the next room. I sat on the floor, eating cold Chinese takeout, wearing the same t-shirt I cried in 2 weeks ago, and I thought, why does this feel worse than the marriage I just escaped? Because silence, even when chosen, can still cut you open. Every time I tucked my boys in, I wondered, did I destroy their family to save myself? People asked, why didn't you just wait? Kids grow up. But I didn't want my sons to grow up thinking, this was how love is supposed to look. Silent, distant, cold. And even though I knew I did the right thing, I still cried when they asked, why doesn't Daddy live with us anymore? The world doesn't like women who leave good-looking, successful men. They think we're difficult, emotional, impossible to please. My friends whispered, you should have tried harder. My mother said, marriage isn't always happiness, Rachel. But no one had lived in that house with my empty body, my untouched skin, my silenced voice. It was 5 months after I left Daniel. I was at a gallery opening downtown, a quiet, poetic place with string lights and people drinking overpriced wine. That's where I saw him, Aaron. He was the gallery manager, tall, kind eyes, tattooed forearm. He walked with the ease of someone who had nothing to prove. We started talking about art, loneliness, divorce, the kind of raw honesty that feels dangerous and delicious. That night, he asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I said yes, but my heart was pounding like I was doing something wrong. When he brushed a lock of hair from my face, my body froze. Not because I didn't want it, because I had forgotten what it felt like to be wanted. We didn't sleep together that night, but he kissed my shoulder, held my face in his hands like it mattered. And for the first time in years, I felt like a woman, not just a mother. A woman with desire, with power, with skin that remembered how to feel. Dating after divorce isn't a fairy tale. It's messy. You compare every smile to your ex. You flinch at small things. You wonder, will I ever trust again? But slowly, I started rebuilding. Not with men, with me. I took dance classes, started journaling, took a solo trip to Michigan, just to feel what it's like to make decisions for myself. And somewhere in between learning how to make French toast for one and laughing out loud in bookstores, I started to heal. 8 months after I left, Daniel showed up. He stood at my door in a suit, holding a box of old photos. I let him in. We talked. For the first time, really talked. He said, I didn't know how lonely you were. I thought I was being a good man by providing. I looked him in the eyes and replied, you were a great provider, but I didn't marry a wallet, Daniel. I married a man, and I missed him. He cried. I cried, but I didn't go back, because sometimes the apology comes after the damage is permanent. To every woman out there sleeping beside a man who doesn't hold her anymore, let me say this. You are not selfish for wanting more. You are not dramatic for needing touch, words, and warmth. You are not broken. Leaving doesn't mean you gave up. It means you finally remembered. You deserve to be chosen, not just once at the altar, but every damn day after. I was married. I was emotionally single. Now I'm whole, and no man will ever make me forget who I am again. They say when real love finally finds you, it feels safe. But what if safe feels foreign after years of emotional starvation? He touched me like I was glass, but I'd only ever been handled like stone. So when love came softly, I almost ran. It's been 2 years since I walked out of that marriage. I've built a new life, brick by brick, got a part-time job at a bookstore, painted my bedroom lilac, stopped apologizing for laughing too loud or dancing in my kitchen at 2 a.m. But there was still one room in me locked tight, the room where love used to live. Until Noah. He wasn't flashy like Daniel. No Rolex, no Harvard degree. He was a carpenter from Lincoln Park, wore flannel, smelled like cedarwood, and fixed broken tables like he understood broken people. We met at the bookstore. He was buying a poetry collection. Yes, a man with rough hands and soft words. Dangerous combination. He smiled at me like the sun had just risen. And suddenly, I felt seen again. The kind of scene that makes you remember you're a woman, not just a survivor. He never rushed me. When he held my hand, it was with permission. When he kissed me, it was after asking, "Are you okay with this?" No man had ever asked that before. Daniel used to take. Noah waited. One rainy night, he invited me over. His apartment was warm, with shelves, soft jazz candlelight. I stood by the window, watching the rain slide down glass, and whispered, "I don't know how to be loved like this." He came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist, and said, "Then let me show you, one quiet moment at a time." I cried, not because I was sad, but because I didn't know love could feel like rest. We didn't sleep together right away. It took months, but the night we did, it wasn't wild. It was tender. He undressed me slowly, like I was a song he didn't want to rush. Kissed every scar, emotional and otherwise. He whispered, "You don't have to shrink anymore, Rachel." That night, I wasn't just touched. I was chosen. Fully, softly, boldly. And for the first time, I let myself feel it. A week later, I pulled away. No texts, no calls. I panicked, because love like his felt like a mirror. And I still wasn't sure I liked the woman staring back. He showed up at my door. Didn't yell. Didn't beg. Just asked, "Are you leaving because you don't trust me? Or because you still don't trust yourself?" And I broke. I sobbed into his chest and whispered, "I don't know how to be loved and not abandoned." He held me and replied, "Then stay, and we'll figure it out together." To every woman who walked out of a broken marriage and promised herself she'd never love again, you're not weak for wanting to be held. You're not desperate for craving connection. And you're not broken if you need to learn love slowly. I was married but emotionally starved. I left, thinking I'd never trust again. But love, real love, doesn't demand. It waits. It softens. It heals. And sometimes it shows up in a bookstore, holding a poetry book, and sees you before you even see yourself. I didn't find love after heartbreak. I found me. And because of that, I was finally ready to let someone else in.